Papa Gammon lived to be 100, and we got to go to his birthday party. And all the dignitaries were there, Chicago Tribune, the ex-mayors, and so forth. And it was really fun. I didn't know anybody that lived to be 100. Well, Papa Gammon died about 6 months after he was 100, and unfortunately, a year later, his son John died. And that left Shari all alone in the house. Now, John was very, very comfortable, and what he did is he left the house to Gary Methodist Church with the stipulation Shari could live there until she passed away. And he would pay all the utilities but one. What utility do you think he didn't pay? He didn't pay her phone bill. He said she was a gossip. You know what? She knew 2 people, my wife and a neighbor. And then Shari passed away, and Shari had what do I want to say? She had no money left. All she had was her possessions, and she willed them to Sally. And what Sally got was a whole bunch of stuff from the Chicago Symphony. And about 5 or 8 years later, Sally started going through this stuff. And she says, hey Dan, there is really some neat stuff here. So she called the Chicago Symphony and she got a hold of the archives, Brenda Strauss. And Brenda came out to Wheaton and spent 3 days taping Sally. Sally learned German because we've been to Germany 4 times and we had exchange students. And so Sally could decode all this German language. And Brenda was going crazy because there were pictures from 1910 of the Chicago Symphony down in Indiana. And Brenda said, we have no pictures from this era. We have nothing from this era. And there were letters and so forth. And so Sally donated all that to the Chicago Symphony. Well, in 1994-95, in their playbill that year, they ran this article, Alfred Quinzel, the world's finest flutist. And then it goes through talking about Brenda and Sally and how it goes on. And it was really a nice gesture, and Sally, there were some letters from important people, and then some of the pictures of the Chicago Symphony. They were so thrilled with that. And there was no monetary value, but Brenda said, I want to do something nice for you folks. She gave us 4 seasons, 2 tickets to the Chicago Symphony. And while we were there, we got to meet the head flutist at that time. Think about something. Shari's dad was head flutist from 1900 to 1928. So there had only been maybe about 3 flutists since Alfred Quinzel left. And so we got to meet him. And that was really exciting. All right, I want to back up. In 1928, Alfred Quinzel said, I'm going to retire. And he said, we are going back home. We're going to go back to Weimar, Germany. So he picked up the family, moved them to Weimar, and he took plans from an architect in Chicago, and he built this beautiful home in Weimar, Germany. And they retired, and they lived happily ever after. Wrong. A man came into their life that changed their life forever. His name was Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler came to Weimar often. Weimar was the cultural capital of Europe. And Nietzsche's wife was still alive, and Hitler used to come and visit her. From Shari's balcony, this is an original picture. It's a picture of Hitler driving by her house. Well, one of the Rotary members in Glen Ellen, he tried to blow the photograph up, and it was too old of a photograph. But what you can see is Hitler's got his thing here. And the important thing is, the people, they were just so excited to see Hitler. Well, you know, after the war, everybody denied Hitler. But think about it. Germany lost the war, First World War, and the Versailles Treaty with France and England. Germany had to pay a lot of reparation money to France and England. And we were in a depression, world depression. We were in depression here, the Great Depression. They were in a depression. Hitler comes along, and as Shari said to me, he promised everybody a chicken in their pot. And he did some neat things. he built a thing called the Autobahn. Why did he build the Autobahn? He wanted people to be able to travel Germany. And he helped start a company called Volkswagen so that every family would have a little car so they could travel. But Hitler was no dummy. You know why he built the Autobahn? He built the Autobahn so he could move his troops when he started war. But at that time, Hitler was a great speaker, as we all know. He could have his own Toastmasters club. Hitler promised them that he would raise the esteem of Germans and make Germany a world power again. Well, in 1942, Shari's father was coming home from the grocery store, and he fell down and died of a heart attack. And Shari rushed down to him as he died, and she just got there as he died. Things couldn't get worse, few worse. But they did. Her sister died a year later. She had a ruptured appendix, and they could not get a doctor due to the war. In 1945, things still got worse. The Russians are coming, and Weimar is in East Germany. So the Russians come in, and they look around Weimar, and they said, I'll take that house for our headquarters, Shari's house. Shari and her mother, up to the 3rd floor. One light bulb and a hot plate. And that's the way they lived for about 6 or 7 months. And they could hear the soldiers bringing their women in, breaking the glasses, just disrupting their whole house. It was really, really tragic. Well, Shari and her mother had dual passports. They were German citizens, and they had American passports. So they went to the American consulate. They got permission from the Russian authorities to go because the Russians were afraid of Americans at that time. So the Russian commander gave them permission to go, and they were given one suitcase, and they literally left in the middle of the night. And they got to Berlin, got to France, and got one of the first boats coming back to America. And so they settled in Chicago. Shari's mother passed away. And Shari was all alone. So John Gammon said, why don't you come out to this little town, Wheaton? And that's how Shari got here. Shari passed away in 1984, and it was kind of a sad situation. Sally and I bought a casket for her. Reverend Leo was a friend of hers at the Methodist Church. And we had a little service, we had a little service in the chapel, and there were 6 of us there. Pastor Leo, Sally and I, and my 2 children volunteered to come home from college. And then there was a neighbor lady. And Leo had a little service for Shari, and then we sat around and told funny stories about everything we knew about Shari. Shari changed my family's life. That one episode of stepping out of your comfort zone really changed our life forever. And so I challenge you, but take it home tonight. If you get a chance, don't stay on a flat line. Get out and step outside your comfort zone. Mr. Toastmaster.